Triple gem, that is the man, great community of Bodhisattva. That time the called profound perception. Also at that time the Bodhisattva Sattva are Avalokiteshvars, able to contemplate profound perfection of wisdom. Those five aggregates also is empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said, this to the Bodhisattva Sattva are Avalokiteshvars. How should any son of the lineage strain who wishes to practice perfection of wisdom? He said that in the Bodhisattva Sattva are Avalokiteshvars. Said this in the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage of lower lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of should look at them like this, correctly or repeatedly, however, as five ideas also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than empty. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of practice, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristics, unproduced, unsist, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of practice, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no object of action, no phenomenon. There is no I element and soul, not including no mind. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so not including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and infinite. There is no wisdom, no eternity, no ceremony, no eternity. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no Sattva and one perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, without fear, having completely passed fear and error, to reach the end of fulfillment. All the Buddhas in the world in 3 times also manifestly completely awakened to unsurpassable, perfect, complete, and ultimate reliance on perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra of purified souls suffering should be known as truth. This is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tata Om Nati Karte Parigate Palasangate Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Sattva, training of perfection of wisdom. Then the Lord from that concentration commended the Bodhisattva Sattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice profound perfection of wisdom. Just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken in the Venerable Shariputra to Bodhisattva, are Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, spheres, and Buddhas, all join high praise that spoken word. Regarding the kidneys and the 3 chakras of the body, the whole of their growth is in space. Avoidance and magical illumination, look after practitioners like a mother and child. Akasamarata Shadava Samaya. Nata Om Gati Gati Mala, Gati Bodhisattva. Presumably free, that's in the power of peace. Shinto Korea Soha. May all negative forces opposed to the law be completely pacified. The house of 20,000 obstacles may be separate from harmful conditions to die. And all the Dharma's being called the Dharma, and may be experienced here and right now.
Sanji Chadang Soji Chananga Sancho Bardu Dami Japsunji Dadi Chishi Gibi Sonu Jola Benshi Sanjin Jubara Sho Sanji Chadang Soji Chananga Sancho Bardu Dami Japsunji Dadi Chishi Gibi Sonu Jola Benshi Sanjin Jubara Sho Sanji Chadang Soji Chananga Sancho Bardu Dami Japsunji Dagi Chishi Gibi Sonunji Jola Sanji Jubara Sho Kangi Tuzi Nizoni Tawa Tamji Bambi Chere Tambi Chun Tenzi Kodam Tela Changse Lo Good morning, everyone. Happy December. Hot December. Kazinganzo Sajitin Tadanin Gewal Zomba Machina, government Bani Seti. We're
going to pick up from the point that we left off in our previous session last week. So we're looking at chapter number 7 in Shantidevas Gata Bodhisattva of Life, the chapter that teaches Bodhisattva or enthusiasm, and we're going to pick up from verse 10. Let's just briefly look at the outline to see where we are in the text. Thank you. So we're looking at abandoning the laziness that relishes the taste of idleness. We began with point 1, which is abandoning laziness by reflecting on the disadvantages of it in this life. And we finished off in the previous session with point C, you will be tormented by suffering if you do not make perseverance in virtue. So verse 10 comes under the second point in that section. If you do not pursue virtue from this moment forward, you will not accomplish what is necessary.
Tirezi da danda nganzu karsuorda. Chidan nganzu danda di zunju kabdo inza, zunju gu mentun chodi, ani gewa la ya mutro wado chik. Zo di chagdo asra, ani gewa chewa la ya, ani chik trowa meba di, zunju gu da gaksha zo di yimba res ra.
As we're here looking at a way to undertake joyous effort, what is incongruous with joyous effort is laziness. In a sense that what prevents us from initiating joyous effort or undertaking it is laziness.
Tinzada tamuntu cho gewala ya ani chitro meba seya zu di gewala ya tro yongo ros gewala tro yongya ya ani chikedi gi nitsu di chi mashibaina ani gewa chewala ya tro samba sedi tai yong pe khagros ro.
So what prevents us from being enthused about virtue is laziness. So then when we develop joyous effort, what we need to do is to delight in virtue, to become enthused about virtue. And without being able to know well what the difference is between negativities and negativities and virtues or non-virtues and virtues, it'd be difficult to be enthused about virtue.
Tirdinzada gewa chewala ya tro yongya ya ani gedi pamang namsha gewi ngo migiwi ngo karimba ani gewi ani chawa karimba migiwi chawa karimba o tindri chiki ngun zimba ina ani gewa singi di ani tsen dit sama yinba gewa ni gewa yun chin da ani pigi gewa lemba la ya hachang gi ani to tsup chenpo ji yinba pendo yoba ji yinba ji hakowa ina ani gewa chiba la ya troyin samba di ani ngangi rochik yung tu yo sare sra.
So without knowing well what the difference is between virtues and non-virtues, in the sense that not knowing well what is it that we need to take up and what we need to cast aside, not knowing what the nature is of virtue, what the essence is of negativities, what is the function of virtues, what is the function of non-virtues, not being able to identify it precisely, we will not be able to develop that enthusiasm in virtue, and it will have not only an effect over this life, but also from life to life, over succession of lifetimes. We will not be making effort in what our happiness and will depends upon. So when we do understand those distinctions, what the function is, what the nature is, what are the things that we need to do, what are the things that we ought not to do, when we understand how our happiness and well-being depends upon that, we will naturally be inclined to the performance of virtue.
Pena ta di chiong di ta nganzu ki ni chigo ba di ko jigdeng chunyi ru soma na shi gi chi di inza ta nganzu chiwi jela ya gar chagre se ondi chiwi jela ya kaya meba chi chundro yo ba na ani nganzu chiwi jesu gar yome gi tola ya ani samtang go ne zu chi chag yo maros ina ya chiwi jela ya kaya meba ji ma chaba kewa jilani rogu yo ba di ta kene chingi jimba na ta kewa lenya la ya lenju kewa de la ya kewa sangi ni su kanzu choba ani kewa sangi ni su kanzu choba inza tinji ki kewa sangi ni su lenya gi ani ta jesu drodo ki so di ani gedi ki jesu drogu inza ani gewa chiba ina ani kewa sangbu chilen to bata migewa chiba ina ani kewa dukja chilen drogu yo bati kewa ngemba chilen drogu yo bati ko jacha jata ma ta choba inza ani kewa ngemba len dengi misu kanchi yo marasta su kanchi sauna ta shingi jimba ani kewa ngemba len dengi mewa inza ani gewa machin tam tu samsung tadani ni gewa chigo du sambigi sauna di dini yungu yo sares.
So in that sense, you can say that this is the way that, this is the nature of things in the world. In that naturally we die, and even if we don't think about it, even if we do not see that, it will come to pass. And then it's not that upon our death everything will cease to exist, but we will go on and take another rebirth. So we will continue after death and take another rebirth. And when we consider the different types of birth that await for us in our next lifetime, there are two types of birth. There is a good state of rebirth and a bad state of rebirth. There is a positive rebirth, or there is a rebirth in a state of happiness and well-being, a rebirth in a miserable state. And those births follow through our own karma, negative actions, or non-virtuous or virtuous actions, in the sense that virtuous actions contribute to a good state of rebirth, whereas negative actions contribute to a bad state of rebirth. This is definitely 100% the case. So no one wants to be born in a miserable state of existence. If you can think about it, no one would like to be born in a miserable state of existence. And therefore, when we think about it, we become naturally inclined to make sure that we avoid that type of birth. We think, I certainly need to do something about it. I need to do whatever I can in order to avoid a miserable rebirth in my next lifetime, to make sure that I secure a good state of rebirth.
Terta so this one tadani ni gewa chebala ya gewala ya tsombar machina government bani chikal hamole ya chikal hamodele ya ani gewa chego ya sambayina ya ani godun drugu mares chetugu mares ra sem di ngamra di shukcher dra chikala ya le dewachi ena luda ngagi ani nibadi medi tsambala teni ngamra gala ya ngamra yong ya chik chagirwas ra.
So then if you think that I will be able to do it at the time of my death, well, if you think that later on when you die, you'll be able to practice virtue, it will be hard for you to accomplish virtue. You will not be able to practice and accomplish virtue if you postpone it to the time of dying. Thinking of our mind will be gripped with fear in the process of dying. Our body will be rendered incapable of doing different things. It will be weakened. It would be weakened, and therefore there would be an additional level of fear and anxiety on top of what is already there. So if we think that at that point, I will be able to practice virtue if I don't do it now, well, we're not going to be able to do it.
Radhani Namzu Karso Tachi Lug Ombo Nyamundi, Ombo Nat Nyamundi, and Miki Montoya, Nawe Makoya, and it's Kani, and Drama Temba, Ra, Chikeja Shego Samna, and it's Jetsafi Dodo Cha, and it Keja Shematu, Labe Daj Tango Samaya, Labaya Kamatu, that Dini Namra Shuch. Ra to Gundengi, any chick give somebody a comshiji mebana, that chick any number showing was ra.
And when we think of the process of dying, there will come a time in which our faculties will deteriorate. Our eyes will no longer be able to see forms. Our ears will not be able to hear sounds. We're not going to be able to speak and communicate. Even if there is something that we would like to say, we'll not be able to express that. Even if in our body language, we would like to express something, to indicate something, like, for example, to wave a hand, we're not going to be able to do it. So if you think that at that time I would be able to practice virtue without having accustomed my mind to virtue, it is likely to not happen, right? So if we don't develop now habits with virtue, how would we be able to do it at the verge of death?
Then Tadani Chatong to the Chatong, Kalasa to the Kalasa, Gemuget to the Gemuget Devana, Kersan.
And therefore, thinking of what we can do at the moment, well, if we can drink tea, we will drink tea. If we can have food, we will have food. If there's something that we can do about smiling and having a giggle, we need to do it now, because who knows if we'll be able to do it later. So we have kind sponsors sponsoring tea, and also something that actually looks like a really nice Indian treat.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot how do you call that? It's not samosa. Little samosa. Little samosa. So let's do some food offering. I'll put the verse on the screen. So the people at home, you're missing out. Or maybe not. So, Lama Sangye
Thank you.
Thank you. Kampi. skull, post. Yeah, feels like going back to India, stepping out of the Delhi airport.
Okay.
No. Okay, I've got an extra one.
Zawe namalaya Randik Tembe Dongata, Yavitan Tebaye, Travel San, you question, Nyon gets a Chishik Jazz, the Tadani, Kivajima Kivana, and it's a Galamalaya, Kivach, and in Kivakiva, Chitagris, Rough Chitagri, Theta, and he gave it to Yagi, Nivayomaris, Kanchi, and it Namraki, Timatovi, and it give a chair, Niva means, and give a kin, go to Maris.
So verse 10 reads, tormented by my negativities and hearing the sounds of hell, in terror I shall clothe my body in excrement. What is the use of such a delirious state? So if we postpone our practice to the time of dying, it would be too late. Would be too weak to practice virtue at that time if we haven't done that before. And being that with the power to do that would be so weak, so meager, will not be able to accomplish much. Not only there would be a fear, even if we develop regret for not having done that before, even a sense of regret will be of no help. There's some very nice tea, Serena.
Indian tea.
How are you?
Dire does the Kansana Suzuki Digba Chejadi, Kanji, Mandri Chejawadi, and a Samnamaya, De degrees, that Chikalamodilia Titin, and in Gavaki. The Yunguyo Saris.
So what Shantideva is saying here is that being on the verge of death, we will recall our negative actions. And there would be a tremendous sense of regret that will arise in our mind at this point.
Kochitangi Lobjons Kiyamari, Koran Piria, and Kambado, the Chasoro, the Lane, Droding, Posachi, Restra, and Curry, Nimachi, Ni Kambano, which is soon. And Kanayabu so good dance, Kanangi, Nalayapi, Jaladi, any give Jay Ashu Kunze Tangche, any Chala do whatever, and then you can just hack over it, sing it, call it, this kitchen, the Kunga, and Gurjing Karan Gogo Tang Marisa. Ni Karan Gogo Tamba in Tang to Grace, in an Angarang, Sam Gogo Tang to Marilasra. Any Kadin and Nave, Marav Chiva, being his Sam Namaya, Makivach, Gavach Chagres, in the Ngaran Sam Gogo Tang to Marimatu, need the chair Maris, and not the sources.
Geshe has an anecdote to share with us, which is a certain event that really they thought that if you think about it, there's something that you can gain from that. So he was many years ago building his house at Sarah Monastery, and there was a team of Indian workers that Geshe employed, and one of them was doing the metal work. In the conversation that Geshe had with him, he said that I'm paying you to use good materials, not kind of poor material, but good materials, but I have no ability to really know what materials you're going to give me. You know, I'm giving you money for good material. Please don't buy cheap material in that. And this Indian guy was not educated. He wasn't particularly educated in spirituality. He told Geshe that, look, you know, I can cheat you in the sense that I can indeed take your money for good material, buy poor materials, and you will not know. I can deceive you, but I cannot deceive myself. I cannot deceive my mind. I know what's happening in my mind, and I know that if I'm going to deceive you, there will be that lingering state of unhappiness and discomfort in knowing that I've cheated someone. So worry not. I'm going to kind of get your money worth. So Geshe thought out, you know, this way of thinking about, well, you might be able to deceive others. You're not going to be able to deceive yourself. And knowing that you've done something wrong would bring about this disquieting sensation. Geshe thought that it's really good practical advice.
Dirheda da chinza tako mijinza nganzu mijinza mireleya namjur sososoleya namjur yobati pi shujin sedeleya jamba machebayina paranki ani ketok namjuri yacha yatamba yunguyo sares ra tinza ani nganzu sobayina chi kubachi ko seda tuzu tinjik ton da yunding ton that
indicates also this particular type of wisdom that we have as human beings, which is not necessarily acquired only through training, but it is something that exists right from birth for us as human beings. So we certainly have that type of wisdom, that intelligence, and we need to think about it. We need to think about it in order to develop positive qualities.
Har rangi dibacheba tembe sem dongata nyawar dongachimbo nyongobana sebalo sobi nyawi danu theba ye da jan tergo nyamdo traba tennis mezang lu cushion sem nyawa is kamahim balaya zombi chichicha tadani gewala zomba chawos.
Let's read through the commentary of verse 17. It says, sorry, 11. Another 17. We got all these. This one. Did we cover that? It's hard to know which. Sorry? Yeah, I know. Just a second. I had a section pinned down, but I guess that something happened. Right. Sorry. Put it on the screen now. When being overwhelmed by the memory of the negativities that one created before, and one covers one's body with excrement as one becomes mad with fright, thinking, I too have to go there, because one hears the sounds of the great suffering of hell that one will definitely experience, such as being burnt and so forth. At this time, when it is unsuitable to practice enthusiasm, what shall one do? One needs to strive in virtue straight away.
Tadizo chidan len hawre do asira ine da nandu sam goya di yani andu sam goya di kanji lu da ngaki liba nyamundi ani ta chik mazang wala soba rangjing gi shodra chagros inza ani lu mazang ko sedi and dinji kawya sungiyos yoros ra.
Geshe feels that this verse is quite clear. Still, we still need to think about it. At the time of dying, we will be gripped with fear, even to the point in which we will soil ourselves. That could happen.
Dirida kanji rangi lu mazang ko di ani zama so mutu kenchi ki kewa chimala pembi gewa drusedi takhabu shu chaktaros rotidi.
So if you imagine this situation where your body and mind will deteriorate, you will soil yourself and not be able even to clean up. Will you be able then to use the time that you have attend to the practice of virtue? It's going to be really difficult, wouldn't it?
Is tata ngazolaya nibacham yegi kawya ani gedi pala motu bitoni ani gewa chebalaya chamba chebati ani thudan sambach thu rembach kawi badi motu goyate pekhichimbo res.
And therefore, now when we have the ability to do that, when we have all the power and strength that is needed in our body and mind, this is the time to do it. It is a suitable time to do it.
Tereda ani inaya ji ani tanda sozu lunga yisum ji thamu debu niba yibi kawya ani send bashi kichedo ani tangche ani ji nyen de da khatendo sari pu putu da khatendo sari ji chogaji me da khatendo sum dinji ji namra jiya ani thoni ani send ji bolya chan debaina ani kewa chima ani pendachi ngangsung sumdo ani tundruto kebaina teni kawalaya ani kewang yambaji tholaya dego chana tenda tathabgyo dugu shojros la inengandu dinesu di singmenza di tholaya samdan thugiyo maros la.
Currently, our body, speech, and mind are in a good state. And we can make use of them in a positive way. But if we do not use our body, speech, and mind in a positive way, if we use them to pursue affairs that belong to this lifetime only, if we fear, for example, being separated from all of those who are close to our heart, our partner, family members, siblings, our children, and so forth, we will have the fear of being separated from them. And that would be the thing that will motivate our activities of body, speech, and mind, and thereby will not be working towards securing positive states in the future. It is likely that upon the transference of this life, we'll end up in a miserable state of existence in the future, like, for example, being born as an animal and the like. And how pitiful it would be should we end up in this state of birth, state of existence. So we cannot see our future state of existence. It's not that we can see it now. And because of that, we still have a certain degree of unclarity or not understanding with respect to that. And this is why we are not taking action. but we ought to think about it.
Tinzada niba tse chimi dumhar sam lelo pambala shisadi tingor ta kanchi tse chimi dumhar di sam gores dumhar sam ni ani tinji ge to tai khase ta tse chimi dumhar sevala ya ani to maybe somebody ani lelo rewas in the deep pambala shis.
And therefore the next point in Shantideva's text is speaking of how we rid ourselves of laziness, in which we do not, through considering what will occur to us in future lifetimes, the suffering that we might encounter in future lifetimes. Let's look first of all at the outline. Abandoning laziness by reflecting on the disadvantages of it in future lives.
Dungan jongeba dhyan sökaba devan deba geva mutsombo gawa dungan itavi tablu tsombo kos tambo dungan jongeba ra nanzola ya dungan jongeba yimba khares na chol nyason jeba tai sen jigdan dengna digje nyawa mesebi dungan nam pejukos.
Since certainly we have laziness that comes about through not thinking of the drawbacks of laziness in terms of future lives, Shantideva's explanation comes under four headings. Suffering is certain to arise. It will be difficult to bear. It is contradictory to want happiness and not pursue virtue. And finally, imploring one to pursue the methods by which one may be liberated from suffering. Let's begin with verse 11 that comes under this section of suffering is certain to arise. First off, when we read through verse 11, sorry. If even in this life you should be gripped with fear, like that of a live fish being rolled, what need even to mention the unbearable sufferings of hell due to negativities you have committed?
Tadi that todo di nanzo dachi chialaya ra chindingi sucheyama chivalaya tragoros chivalaya trani ani mashi yagched sombo ne yagchedda ani kharsugota kalishu jagoras tara lu chodengi chedure khalagi chedure penata chishogin awulami yukshala yalo soba ponda chu pigila ya luzete yalo soba kini khalachi ani khonche chidinyo to changlo da samlo shiburo di ani mashin sombo nena sam kolon dindis ton ta so dogoras ina ya share la ngado share la ta jita yobadi ta sebu shoot ina ya ngado ta ani keval lembala ya ani samlo chemeba chaya phashani keval lengu yebi chodo meba inza ani chimi dungasimi tablaya ani chemi shiba ani chemi deba meba ani lelo bashi le ne deba tindi ji inza ta ani kanji tindi ji inza gevi vidyusi ngadu dugu mundos tinza ngadu lunga isim chao kanche badi dunga bashi gyuchaga yenza dunga yonya gyasi gyadam barewas.
So we will certainly die, and yet we don't think about it, or we are fearful of death. It is we will certainly die, and we become fearful of death, and we don't fear the suffering that might occur to us in our next lifetime. We don't fear our next state of rebirth. We only fear death. We fear death, and therefore, looking at the things that we do in this life, out of a fear of death, we try, for example, to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So in terms of the food that we eat, we try to eat healthy food. We exercise in the morning thinking that that will make us healthy, or we exercise late evening. We look at different activities or different things that we can do in order to live a healthy lifestyle. And in some sense, you can say that all of that is motivated or involved with some fear of death that we have. So while we fear death, we hardly fear our next rebirth. We don't, rather than not fearing our next rebirth, we hardly think about it. We hardly think our next rebirth, and therefore we do not do anything in order to bring about positive states in our next rebirth. We do not take up virtuous actions, and this is what we call laziness. And if that's what is happening for us, it means that with our body, speech, and mind, if we do not take up virtues, we'll be solely involved with negativities. And if we are involved in the creation of negativities, they will bring about suffering. Do we have some more tea left? Could Geshe has more? Yeah. At the beginning, Geshe said that no, thank you, but now he's asking for it. The fear of having no tea. Okay.
That driven on ya, Kunis, Chivana, Nyasombo, Chet P, that Chetsen, Jevatavi, said me at Yetavi, Chipa the Demon Kunas, they watch him in never miss it, Dunganam, most Nyona, which goes.
The commentary to verse 11 says, when you will die, you will have suffering like a live fish flapping on hot sand. Hence, what need is there to talk about what happens when you experience directly the unbearable sufferings of hell due to the results of negativities you have created?
Tertang Nazumi Mang Chedi, Tami Mambu Shuji, Tami Mang Chedo Riasva, and Mang Chedita, Shukil Milling, Tam Manshudo, Chado Chigdas, Tinza, and Chiki Tundro, Busing Rilaya, and Chikta Gamzun on the Socha Manshu, Tanya Mang Shuyarata, and the Chulaya Chimus Dungado Chik. Your something so maybe Tom that should give any on the picture to yours. Only in that to Solayata, do not shoot, do not shoot your song to us.
Thinking about a state of being for ourselves as human beings, we can probably say that most people in the world do not accept the Dharma. Do not take it up upon themselves. When we look at the attitude that we have towards life in the oceans, fish, shellfish, other living beings, and so forth, most people don't think that these living creatures experience some feelings or sensations. Being involved with killing of fish, shellfish, and so forth, in thinking that those living creatures do not experience pain, or they do not have any sensations.
Pebig like him, Chalabega Restra, not detail less Asha. Something Sam was soon to shoot you now under quarter evening. One is sometimes like him, Gango Shucha, Charles.
So some coffee to wine and shoot and chug it out.
Sure.
Most old monks in Tibetan society, a sign of reaching the ranks of an old monk in Tibetan society is having that great affinity with chai. You really like chai. So, Geshe says that they still have that sometimes that mental attitude as if he's in his 30s or in his 40s. But then kind of when he looks at how much chai he drinks and how much he likes chai, this is a sign of aging. So tell Geshe that maybe he should take up coffee. Geshe said that drinking coffee might shorten your life. Says you die with a happy heart.
Yeah.
Is that possible if somebody who has never been to this Dharma and thinking about non-rational? So the die, it might be, it can be steady, so ignorance is steady, so it becomes reverse and enemy. But the ones who learn, and then because we have to do some good and some bad, but if we remember the best, and then we become hell or hungry ghosts, and even worse than the one who has not encountered reverse and enemy. How do we see?
All right. So I'm going to repeat your question for the people at home. So it is possible that someone that is doesn't trust the Dharma or doesn't believe in the Dharma, someone that could be totally uninformed about the Dharma will die in that state, and due to their ignorance of karma, virtues, non-virtues, they will end up in a miserable state of existence. That might happen. But what about, for example, someone like us who do trust the Dharma? We have done some study about negativities and virtues. And then since in our life we do both negative actions and virtues, then being on the verge of death, because we do have some understanding of the working of karma, and we know that we also have performed non-virtues or negativities, it is possible that a fear will even grow bigger and bigger, which might then lead us to a miserable state of existence. So our situation might be even worse off than not knowing about it from the get-go. So could that happen? Kesi chu kemalenchi ina kesi le gedi tola kakem mashiwa ina wa mako ina kesi dagan shiwa ina chega lamula namta chembo yamna gyuba chembo kewa ina dilatene dende ngendro kewa len sitan sigarwas inen ngaso dipasha ngaso dawo tewa ina ngaso chu kenle ani le gedi koa tesiore ni ngaso mitse didewa ina ta miga dipa bed jem meba marwas ngaso kewa tugiore yan dipa yan tugiore chega la mola ngaso soso migewa dikpa di chenwaina sansan dila tene rawa mebeto no shinang kewo chikiro ani shin naso gewa drumna yang ta migya dre di dikpa dila shinan shio chichene shinan dila tene eshe shinan chero done dila tene kewa ngemba dende yon sigirwas pesher le gedi shiva kengi peshe kesi tanan shinan shukcha den de joina dila tene kyawan lemban kyawan ngemba den yon chogerwa kan samna
tanganzu pi gyundeng gedi palan chechini gewang gonchobach yobaima ani shena ki bikalaya chi ani pi gewa tench gewa chewa tench yungros shena gutobki ani chi kunjosumina tembachi ani same din pigile capture younger was. The Shena Shu Tavi, any capture the shoe children. Gavachivana, shoot any Gedipana Montravana, any Kavila capture the shoe children. Titogi, any Kavachima, Dendrokiagi, any cock of the mind.
So it is possible that once you understand virtues and negativities, or develop some understanding of what constitutes virtues and what constitutes negativities, a greater sense of fear will arise in your mind. But if you can then use that sense of fear to turn your mind towards the objects of refuge, and then through that, your refuge will have a greater force, a greater power. You will think that, therefore, I put my trust in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, the three objects of refuge. Then the refuge that will be enhanced because of your fear will make you accumulate virtue. In that sense, you'll use that fear in order to generate a powerful virtue. And if you generate a powerful virtue of going for refuge, it will certainly have a positive influence over the possibility of attaining a pleasant or happy state of birth in the next lifetime.
Nanzu Gava Cheva the Machiva Nila, Keva Mevina, Chika Hamolaya, Jigta Noya, the Pishi, that you give a lapchin chiana, and if we give maybe give a chet to Yanani, and Chikalam Gashi Projectinta, Dredge in good mother. That did Matuano, Chikalam Jigta Yoya, Yaja Yatamba Redoas. Inea gave a Cheva the Majiv in Kevach Yogogros. Him never know, and on the leg you just say, love the idea. And cousin six of the child was ra. That Keva the cunning English lady, not to give a change, Kunjo killing in when Jita Kavaya, the social Pilaya, to keep the muscle, just such same such Gassi Gatam Ragoros. That gave a machine, Chuki Melingzuna, Jita Rangaton, share mondo, kept just Skiomaros. He made the young skin made it Sambala and non solely Gassi Gatama. Capture Giovanna, he told you, not the Yadrech, Revayorist.
If we, in our mind, don't have any special way of appreciating virtues, in a sense that for us, virtues or negative actions are the same without any difference, it is possible that being on the verge of death and looking at the things that we have done in our life, that there would be some sense of fear of dying and what will await for us in next lifetimes. But if we do in our mind make some distinctions between virtues and non-virtues, if we do trust that upon death we will go on and take another rebirth, that there will be continuity, and we will know that there is a difference between virtue and non-virtue, then if we have cultivated a lot of virtue in our life, it is possible that we will feel satisfied for the things that we have done in our life, things that I have done well, and therefore we will die without any sense of regret. It is possible that something like that could happen. But even if it does not happen, that you die without a sense of regret, if you, in your mind, you do think that there is a difference between virtues and non-virtues, you make that distinction. And then on the verge of death, you look at the things that you've done in your life and you think of non-virtues that you have done, and you experience a sense of fear of what is awaiting for you in next lifetime. You can use that in order to develop the deep sense of trust and reliance upon the three objects of refuge. So looking at ourselves, for example, we not only accept or agree that there is a difference between virtue and non-virtue, we also accept the objects of refuge, which means that when a mind will be gripped with fear, if it is gripped with fear, at that time, we have something that we can turn our mind to. We can rely upon refuge. And since we can rely upon refuge, there is some relief that we can get from the fear that could occur to us being on the verge of death. And that could then steer or lead the way for us to our next rebirth. So in that sense, when we look at someone that does have trust in the three objects of refuge and have fear being on the verge of death, and you compare that with someone that has fear at the time of death, but has no trust in something that can give them protection. If you have no trust in an object of refuge in the sense of something that can give you protection, it is very likely that your mind will be so gripped with fear that that will certainly lead you to a miserable type of rebirth in your next lifetime. Or if you are gripped with fear, but you know that there's something that you can trust, if you turn your mind towards a refuge, and in your mind find reliance upon that refuge, and thereby reduce the level of fear that you have at that time, that can lead you away from a miserable state of rebirth.
아니 이치 제사지다 샘때사도지 야지야담보다 라그도스 다 딘지기지 아니 추키 멜랭지 바이노 다 아니 남라랑친 대마도비 아니 카야메기치 라 얀사 카야메기치 딘지 찰도스 라
And then, even when we're alive, when we experience a certain adverse situation, a negative situation, when we experience fear and so forth, if we supplicate the objects of refuge, if we go for refuge, if we then think that there's some protection that we can get from that, it could make the situation better. It could be of help. Whereas in our life, when we experience difficult situations, difficult problems, and we feel that we have nothing that we can rely upon, there's nothing that can help us to seek protection, Geshe feels that it can exacerbate our situation, to make it harder to deal with.
아니 강한테비 걸어야 아니 라모군조 켄 삼섬지 비 샘다마스는 다 떼사르지 라 아니 지 연구도 왔어 근데 매바이나 또 다가라 아니 ngamra 대마도 비 셴바 제답 가야 매기지 라 어딘지 해도 왔어
So in this life, when we develop trust in the three objects of refuge, if we accept them, not only just accept them, if we have deep, heartfelt reliance upon the three objects of refuge, and we experience difficulties, and we feel that there's nothing much that we can do about it, we can turn to the objects of refuge and think, lamas, objects of refuge, think of me. Right, please think of me. And in that sense, we have something that we can rely upon to find some solace. Whereas if you trust nothing, if there's nothing that you can rely upon, it can even render you to be more hopeless or helpless at a time in which you experience problems and difficulties.
대저다 지가 하면은 다가랑 지구지기한 연구를 왔어. 네 연구연자 나도 최초부터 마지원이 아니 최제나 겐제여봐. 아니 단 나오는 소문나시. 최제나 겐제여봐. 최대한 센델을 제거봐. 저 안친디 다다님 제거봐. 디 겐제 마부 쇼지 상상하는데 오늘 전에야 삼성기. 아니 로직이에요 왔어.
네, 키와 치마토라서 차와이나에.
먼저 최고에. 라.
So if we think that we do need to practice the Dhamma, as it is stated in the Lamrim tradition, if we think that we do need to practice the Dhamma, we think that not only I need to do it in this life, and I need to start right from now.
단이버디 sökawanis dunga tot pavanta ro pena ngandru dunga tot bhabaino ta söka ngone chagre was ro ngandru chi dendru mi luden thomni pigila ya chi mili tsamach mili abuch toyo baina di ka chi ani kadula soba ani tregam soba ani chi ani chadang dunga soba ani dhyan chi ngandula ya kanga shu ta dili pen dap mambu shu ani chewa pena ani ngandru dunga thot babaina da ani ta se matu bach yungur wasra.
And not only that, it is possible that this suffering will all of a sudden befall upon us, and how hard it would be to bear sufferings that all of a sudden befall upon us. Even more so, it would be difficult to bear the suffering of miserable states of existence. So think about it, how, for example, in this life, even if we have attained human body that has conducive conditions, perfect situation is in a human existence, still we find it difficult when we experience suffering, hunger, thirst, heat, cold, and so forth. It is difficult for us to bear with some suffering. So even more so when you think of the suffering of miserable states of existence, they're certain to be much greater than that and also difficult to bear.
Reta dinjigi soka ve dunga di ko jume keme ki chubshawaj mai ba gygen le ten yungu yo ya ani kewan hamata kewan dila sobala ya ani megi bi le bashik chebala ten yungu yo ba insa ani thadani ni dinjigi chi ani gewa chebala mutroba ani digbi le ani lelo cheba di tsawni ni rigma res jebena mun digwa tuma chi tada ni ma res yewi ki tuma chebala ten lelo cheba meri des.
And should we end up in a miserable state of existence, being tormented by suffering, which are very difficult to bear, it is not that this state arises from no causes or no conditions. It is a state that arises and depends upon cause and conditions that we have cultivated in this life or in our previous lives. And therefore, if we do not take care of the actions that we perform, if we still remain unenthusiastic about virtue, if we still remain lazy about the cultivation of virtue, we will experience such sufferings in future lifetimes. And this is what the next section is saying. So first of all, in relation to verse 12, before we read through that verse, Geshe Rinpoche says it is unsuitable to be lazy because of many negativities created previously, and also the various causes for the lower realms one is still creating every day. So in relation to that, verse 12 says, having created the karma for the hells, where one's delicate flesh is burned, when scalded, you say? Scalded. When scalded with hot water, why does one abide happily?
Devar never samanta, naming tony, Gava Machiva, Devadi, Zawa Nim, Dachi, any Mirivajiris, on the Mirivajiris.
Since such a miserable state of existence, being tormented by suffering, arises because of non-virtues. Non-virtues contribute to such state of rebirth. It is unsuitable to remain idle or to still be susceptible to destruction in not performing virtuous actions.
Yeah, true, COVID should think Rebana, Luke and Jensen, Rabbi, Dungan Yunguba. Never give a ye. Ne, Lechin, Chishan, the Leliwangi, Devarni, Gola Mesho, Tar, Gava Tumbala, Gava the Tumber Chavus.
So then this section says, why does one abide happily now, having created the karma to be reborn in the lower realms, where one's body of delicate flesh will have to experience the sufferings of being burned intensely when scalded by the hot water that boils angrily in the hell realms? One should strive in virtue like being on fire.
Pedro Judesda, Nandu Golaya Mesho Baino, and the Lagbala Kario Baino, and Yuchin, Lamsa Yuchin, and Gola Mesho di, say Taji Chigras, Dinan Shingi, said Delia, and Gava Chimi Chedu, Gava Chimi Dunga Sam Chimi, and it said Delia, Shenja, Yons Zogo Torchini, Chimney Dunga say Chedu, Gava Zambalia, Dinan Shingi. And so much goodness.
So when you think about it, if your head would catch fire, you would just throw everything that you have in your hands and try to put out this fire. Similarly, when we think of miserable state of existence, the suffering that is awaiting for us in miserable states of existence, we then should cast away all the different things that we are so attached to creating this life and make sure that we use the time that we have at hand for the cultivation of virtue.
Sumbada Devan Devatan, Gava Mazamba, Gavanis, Ranzu Deva Duvi or Denia, Gava Chevalia, Bezu Chig Nevadi, Gavares, Ganduris.
Looking at the next point in the outline, it says, it is contradictory to want happiness yet not pursue virtue. So we are looking for happiness and well-being. But if we do not make effort in virtue, we're being contradictory in our approach.
Then Gava Kandas Chagri is lonely. Devi, you gave us. Deva Gona. Devi you do go Deva Gona, Devi you give a Madruba, Deva Yonsing Maris. In a Nansu, Semlaya, Deva shoot go or the Imia, and if we Luna Chavadi, and if Migi or Bashi Che Devano, and D, and Semla Samia down, Luna Chavani Budi, and Gavachas ones, the Digmas ones.
If we seek happiness and well-being, we need to create the causes for happiness and well-being. Without creating the cause of happiness and well-being, happiness will not arise. We want to be happy. We're seeking happiness and well-being, and yet in our behavior, it seems as often we are solely engaged in activities that bring about suffering. So in that sense, what we think of and what we do are not in agreement. There is a discrepancy between our state of mind and the way that we behave.
And Sam Kibu the Sam the Kuyambu Chia, and Dindrichago, Kuyambu, Chikloja Chimbu Chiabana, and Samba Kuyambu, Samba Kibu does, Posutovo, Control Savo. Narget Savo, Tindijimbaina, Kadu in a post of which Magiva Yungudas.
Sorry, I should have said there's a discrepancy between the way that we think and the way that we behave. If we develop a spacious state of mind which is relaxed, mind which is more quiet, if we make sure that the mind becomes vast and spacious, it will contribute to happiness and well-being. When the mind becomes uptight, proud, angered, and so forth, that brings about suffering.
Tireda, Jevenolia, German Jevul Debatan, Seri General Nemansi, Chivis Punse, Padava, Kiudunga Dag Jones.
Let's look at verse 13. It says, those wishing for result without effort and who are sensitive receive much harm. And like the gods gripped by death, well, alas, I'm overwhelmed by suffering.
Devi Gu Gavala Zomba Mevar, Jebur Devan Devatans, Dongar Chuse Samaya, Saint Chung, Saint Regina, Dongar never Marshi. Chivi Sonsi, Padra, you send to Ravanana, Deva Metochi, Mendeva Top Babi, Kivu Dunga Dak Jomajuras, Susu Devati, any Mavas, Susulaya, Dunga Teti, so the Chagadas, and the Dunga is in the Chavachetan, Devana.
The commentary says, those wishing for the result of happiness without striving in its cause, virtue, and who are sensitive even towards the smallest of suffering, will receive much harm. Like the god grieved by death, whose wish for long life will not be fulfilled, and they will receive what they do not wish for, one will, well, alas, I'm overwhelmed by suffering. So often when we look at the way that we behave, though we want happiness, we destroy our happiness. If we destroy our happiness and cultivate cause for suffering with our body, speech, and mind, this is what we will experience.
The Shiva Dungal Litari Tab La Jumbo Kovanis. One Chidar Chashina. The Dungal Litari Tab the Kandas Chigoris. Cavalier is Lama. Lamna Surgery.
Now looking at the next point, verse 14, it comes out at the heading of imploring one to pursue the method by which one may be liberated from suffering. So if you wonder, how do I go about and eliminate suffering? This is what verse 14 is dealing with.
The Dungal Litari Tabdi, Kalaten Yungusina, me Luden, me Lujle Yovanza, me Tundrumainda, and it's Lamba Kupa Tindrimaimba, Namji me Lujle Yovanza, T Tenaya, and me Namchu the Piji Chen, Dungal Litari Tab, Tembaina, then Dungal Taraji, Yunguris.
So if you wonder, how do I become free from suffering? Well, verse 14 says, so verse 14 says, relying upon the human boat, free yourself from the great rivers of suffering. So we have been born as human beings with the intelligence of a human being. We do have the intelligence of a human being, which we can put to use. We're not born like an animal in the sense that a state of mind is not dull, it is not lacking intelligence like the intelligence of an animal. We were born as a human being, and therefore we have the power, the strength to eliminate suffering.
Kanji and Nanzu me lose layover, me lose Nanzulaya, me leverage Yovanza, and Nanzulaya, and Namjutrian Nivayoris, Chambu Chiag Nivayoris, Shanlaya Chamjon Chiag Nivayoris, Tundru Shanda, Simjin Shanda Mandre, Nanzulaya, Nivadianza, T Nivadian, and Drovaya, and then Devajili and Droyajmato, and Dunga Yungumaris, Kanjira.
So it says, relying upon the human boat, free yourself from the great river of suffering. As it is hard to find this boat later, do not sleep at this time, fool. So we have obtained a body of a human being, which not only comes with you can say a human brain or a human mind, which allows us to develop a greater degree of wisdom, a greater degree of intelligence, we also have the capacity to develop a mind to care for others, to develop a greater degree of loving concern to others. We have the ability to develop a mind so that it depends upon it in future lifetimes. We can also attain once again a pleasant or a happy state of existence. We can proceed from happiness to happiness using this human body that supports this intelligence.
Lenny number G2, Namju Triandi, Manzula Nibadi, D Nibadi, Tandi Tule, Tangan me Kevalambi, Tudelia, Jungle Motto, Telia Montumenta, and Manzu Military Tolerance.
As human beings, we do have the ability to be of benefit to others. We do have an ability to develop a caring attitude, loving concern to others. We have the ability to do it. It is different to other living beings who might be only ill-mannered in their attitude towards others. They might be harmful to others. With human beings, of course, we can behave in a way that is ill-mannered. We can behave in a negative way that is harmful to others. But we also have this particular intelligence that can well distinguish between what is positive and what is negative, what is good and what is bad. So if we do not make sure that we utilize the ability that we have based on this human body that we have to develop our intelligence, that would be wasteful. We will waste our human intelligence.
Tanjur to be Tenlambema, Dungan Tadale, Jordan Nubi, me Lugi Trilla Ten, Ning Covid Dunga Cho Chili, George J. Tanjur Tencho, Tanjur, you do to Pemina, Truly Chin Yaka, Mombashi Penny, Trini to Nimalova, Kewa Chong, Jin Chamber, Nam Yamson, Bikun, Kovicho, George Chavos. Tanjuni Gawai, Nibitus and Bebago Tendos.
The commentary to verse 14 says, if it is asked, how then should one act? Since one can attain liberation if one strives and depends on the basis that has attained freedoms and endowments, Shantideva says, liberate yourself from the great stream of suffering and depends on the boat of the human body. The freedoms and endowments have great purpose. Since achievement of the freedoms and endowments is extremely rare, it is very difficult to find this boat again later on, hence deluded ones. At this time of having found this boat, do not fall asleep, but liberate yourself from the great stream of cyclic existence by way of practicing the paths of the small, medium, and great capable beings. This shows that one needs to strive while having found the difficult to find freedoms and endowments. So we have a couple of questions here. Let's begin with Shannon. Shannon says, when one realizes emptiness, does this cut through the fear of death by seeing that there is no negative karma or positive karma in reality? Tadila Shivala Chakbashwa, Tony Tobaina, Tony Tobe Capsulayan, the Le Gedig de la Muela Yomares in a patient ranching to win Mares, special than the Lagio. Since then the Tobaina, Tony Tobaina, Ni Chio Chanan di Neva Chagrabes.
Saturday in Baras. Tony Altam Tony Mato Kung, Tony Toyak Chedin, Bezin Chia Koran, Piggy, and Legedig Nimisam, and Digbit Savadi, and Chadam Mosin, Tam Maribati, Savachiva, and D. Che Mevale, Samudan, tomani gongoras ra tagas chi tombare se samtan de bai no tomani toy kor yomaras the dinji chi ani tsaw koran ani shideme ba shinji lo yim chi tondi ani shoji kita se tombul le yoras ani chi kewa jiwa jaga tsamaya kaya ani jigda chi mugo chi thongras ra.
Needless to say that once you realize emptiness, you will have no fear of death or no fear at the time of death. But also the process that leads to the realization of emptiness will also be involved with the reduction of fear. In a sense that, first of all, in order to realize emptiness, which is not an easy feat at all, it's not that just like that one would come to realize emptiness. You begin with developing some trust in the working of karma, negativities, non-virtues, and so forth. You develop an understanding of the way that that it works. You also accumulate the collections, purify negativities through adopting certain modes of behavior, taking up as much as you can, positive actions and negative actions. Through this process, at the end, you come to realize emptiness. And that being the case, then also through the process before throughout the process, even before you realize emptiness, that reduction of fear will occur.
Because don't you thought the negative it's my much towards that kind of person.
So the laptandi ngui netsula le kana meba tongires nichi. The laptandi kisitandi.
It's the order similar, Kashi Tongas. On you don't the negative namshadi. We my much toya yomara.
Ngui maimba said the Dekona Mila never said.
But Jargo Jamugus of the
Yeah. So Shannon is saying that also by seeing that there is no negativity, there is no negative karma or positive karma in reality. So also this statement should also be made clear to everyone, because it's easy to sometimes make mistakes with respect to negative karma, positive karma not existing in reality. Not existing in reality, which means that in suchness, they do not exist. But it's not that one should think that karma doesn't exist at all. After all, if you develop an understanding of substances or emptiness, you'll have even a greater trust in the working of karma, in the working of negative actions and negative actions and positive actions. All right, so we have one last question. If we are fearful and not, if we are fearless and not fearful at the time of death, is that fearlessness contributing to the manifestation of another life? Tila chigalamola chinang shenang yona tamena soso kyawa kalem badila shenang yomelatene kyawachi lengerves na shenang yona kyawachi kyawadagana minsum la lenge bogerves shenang mena dentola kyawalengerves la joyorves.
Didn't Josh show your samanis? Nanzo and Chikalamolea, Namdra Ming, Pesci covered us. Cover us. Near 2D and Lake Anaki Jason Dengoris. Chikalamolea, Namdra Mine said, there must have a cabo. Pigi Nanzu Ugaon the Zambala, Ranching Namdra Yungros. Chikalamala Namdra Mine said, Cabo shooters. 2D and T. Kumaya. So Kedi Palangi, Namsha Yabush Cheovana, Gava Yabush Cheovana, D. Togi, Dendroli Kigide, Dego Bashi Chedeva Jimbana, Can Chica Lomala, Mando, send kind Koji Sogimi to Shiva in ya, Nando Hidro Modo, Dendro Gaping Maras.
Ni kesi shinan bedmena dende chodi toy shinan bedmena dendro la kyali le tachugirbe
Touch Maras. As we did any Dendro Gusago.
Well, first of Geshe says that in reality it is so hard to die without any sense of fear. Most people will have a fearful death, particularly when you think of how we die through the ceasing, the stopping of the breathing process, and how fearful it is to stop breathing. So it's hard to think that it is so easy to have a state of a process of death which does not involve with fear. For most people, there will be fear. Is it that fear alone is what controls or what brings about pleasant state of rebirth or miserable state of rebirth? It's not that only fear determines that. It's actually whether we have performed virtuous actions before or non-virtuous actions before. So virtuous actions lead to a pleasant state of existence, whereas negative actions bring about miserable state of existence. And we follow the actions that we have done before. So though you could say that there's likely to be a state of fear that will be present in our mind when we go through the process of death and dying. Still, if we have accustomed our mind to virtue, if we have performed virtues in our life, there's something that we can draw from. It depends upon that. We can then reach a pleasant state of rebirth in the next lifetime. So then, just to clarify that, ask is like, if, for example, someone dies without any fear at all, right? If your mind is just completely free from fear at the time of death, does it mean that necessarily you will attain a pleasant state of rebirth in your next lifetime? Well, Geshe says that there's no guarantee. Still, to be born in a pleasant state of rebirth in your next lifetime, it depends upon whether you have cultivated virtues before.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's dedicate. Nyodo da lama sangye tukini doa chikamalupa te sama gopa shu. Chanchu semcho rinpoche magye panan kegyochi kewa nyamba lepa. Gone gondo pewa shu. Kowe shinkami bendan dewa manu chuwene. Chenre siwan tenzi gazoe. Shape site watu tenyu chi. Tusun jan chi jan gun yawe. Tenzi yon bewe. Bom so jo pose. Cho sun kowe le montu kyu. Pada so duji. Thank you. So, for the people at home and for the people here, just a reminder that we're going to have a daybreak tomorrow in our study program. We have a team of probably capable people that are coming here to install the solar panels on the roof. So not only there would be a lot of commotion, but also there would be noise. And even more importantly, there would be no power. So there would be no teaching tomorrow. And hopefully we'll be able to complete this work in one day. The team and together with Mark have said that they will do the best to complete it in 1 day. But, we're going to keep an open mind. If they're not going to finish it tomorrow, then we'll just have to add another day to that. So that's what's going to happen tomorrow. So we have a day off, thumbs up. Then for Thursday, Geshe is giving the Bodhisattva vow on Thursday. So that's going to be at 10:30 in the morning. So Geshe said that for those, those that have not taken it before, taking it for the first time, In the ritual itself, there is an option of also doing it by yourself, doing it at home, for example. When you take the vow from the three objects of from the representations of what is with your mind. So you can do it at home, but you can also do it here for the first time. Even if you haven't taken the refuge vow before, so you can do it. So you're most welcome to do it. Then in the afternoon, we have a birthday party to Lama Sovereign. So we're going to have, is it 1:30?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it's 1:30. So if you want to come, please join us. If you want to join us also for lunch, then BYO food. If you haven't made reservation to the cafe, then just kind of bring your own food, and we're going to have a picnic together somewhere. So please join us if you want. Oh yeah, and tomorrow we're also gonna Thursday. So on Thursday, sorry, not tomorrow, but on Thursday. So we've cemented, concreted the road from basically the art studio all the way up to the ramp. So it looks fantastic. So at 8:30 on Thursday, there would be a ribbon cutting ceremony. Sorry? To the end of the human race. Yeah, we're just going to probably find out during the day. I hope that it's not at the very end of the car park. We'll have to do some more walking. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
So grandmother passed away 2 days ago.
Okay. 건서디 뭐뭐디 니만 니스고는 총선사 가든 좀
그 배버려.
간서 배바이나
부장.
오탄
뜻 치라서.
no
단지 라는 뜻이 뭐 뜻이 좀. 예, 아니 뭐 뜻은 되었으니.
no
라.
yeah, so yeah, I guess I will do some dedication for the sake of Kandindom. Should I make it? It's also just to let you know that it's Mark's birthday today.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark's birthday.
Today.
Yeah, he's turning 16. 16. So if you see Mark, just kind of give him a hug. COVID-19 hug.